Boom. Because nothing sucks worse than starting a Zoom and getting halfway through and it's like, oh damn, I forgot to hit the record button. So
Oh,
we are officially recording. Guys, welcome in. As you're coming in, please do me a favor, mute your microphones. The only two active microphones starting off should be mine and Courtney's. And as you guys have questions, please feel free to unmute, ask your question, and then go back on mute just to minimize background noises because we all have different things going on. If anyone wants to unmute their or turn their cameras on, hey, make sure you got on a shirt, make sure you're decent. And if you're sitting there in only your shirt, don't stand up because I'm just saying, you may see more of you than we planned on. Uh, Happy New Year's to everyone. I am really excited for some things to kick off this year, and I would be remiss if I didn't, kick this year off with something that's hard hitting, something that's, you know, not necessarily, well, it's definitely influential, but at the same time, very informative for you guys to know some background, some history, and prepare for what's upcoming this year. I see Miss Iola Stallings, one of JJ's favorites to get on Zoom. I see you out there. How are you? I got people, getting in here from all over, and I'm going to continue to monitor, these waves. Uh, Guys, I got something special lined up for you. We have the one and only Courtney Moran with us right now. And for those of you that don't know, this young lady was pivotal to the hemp provisions within the 2018 federal farm bill. She is an attorney. She has extensive background, extensive history. She probably started out like, and we're going to ask her this question, here in a minute, but she probably started out like most, where, very little idea what was going on. And one way or another, by hook or crook, something got us all into this space. I mean, I was a military dude, retired flight engineer, and here I am in cannabis now. Go figure. So we all have that segue. We're going to talk about that. And I appreciate everybody coming out here, giving us a little bit of time. So with that said, Courtney, can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. How's my hair? Yours is great. How's my hair? Is it good?
Yours
Good?
looks better than mine.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I spent all day on my eyebrows. This is awesome. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for your time. And, for those at home don't know, like me and you have a little bit of a side story. It was the craziest thing. Like at NoCo, by the way, NoCo's upcoming this year, guys. August the 10th through the 12th, we're going to be in Estes Park again. Mark those calendars, be there. But a lot of people,
hold on, bro. Got
a lot of
somebody
people, they don't
coming
see the
behind you.
value of going to NoCo. Right? Can somebody mute their microphone, please? I think that's I don't want to call anybody out because I'm looking
Okay.
at who actually doesn't have their microphones muted right now. So can you please mute your microphone? If not, I will have to call a couple people out. I don't mind. But Bronson, Allred, and Keith, I'm gonna need you to mute your microphones, please. Sorry. But a little bit of a side story in
Hey, you
terms
did
of
good.
well, let's see. Let me mute the microphones because people aren't listening. It's okay. It's cool. I got it. So NoCo, right? A couple of years ago, I'm sitting next to someone at this session where we're talking about things within legislation, and we're just having. I think I was talking about the origins of zero point 0.3, where that number actually comes from, where it's written. I was sharing, with someone the origins of that, Dr. Small's research. We're listening to the speech. And lo and behold, I did not know I was sitting next to a powerhouse. I was sitting Courtney and we were talking and everything was cool. And then fast forward time a couple of years of her and what she's done. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the girl that was sitting right next to me. So reached out, we reconnected, and she was more than thrilled to come out here and have some conversations with you guys. So Courtney, thank you so much for all that you've done and what you are going to do this upcoming legislative session. Thank you so much for being here.
You are so welcome. Happy New Year, everyone. It's such a honor and pleasure to get reconnected with you, James, and it's really nice to meet all of you. And I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Absolutely. So right off the bat, Court, let's dive into it, right? How do people get in touch with you if they have questions, they want to reach out for things? Is there an email address? Is there a phone number? Is there a Facebook page? What do we got? Oh, she's fancy with it today.
So,
Boom, there it is.
can you see this screen that Let's
I
Work
yes,
Together?
ma'am. I sure can.
Awesome. So on here are QR codes that you can scan that go to information about both of my firms. So Agricultural Hemp Solutions is my lobbying firm. This is the organization that I've lobbied both on federal work and numerous state policies on. Through there, you'll actually get a link to the docu-series that my team and I just put out, which I can share a little bit more about that in a minute. And then if you go to Earth Law, that's my law firm. I'm licensed to practice in Oregon, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, but we also do some general compliance and legal research for folks in other states. So you have opportunities to work with me both through a lobbying arm and or a legal arm. But these are the best ways to just scan your phones, get the QR codes that has the direct link right to our websites, right to my team, right to our blog, and all of our social media.
Awesome, awesome. That is perfect. And if we if that's if you have other slides, cool. But if that's the way, if you want to keep that up and share it throughout the presentation, hey, I've got no problem. However you want to do it, it's up to you. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. Like I've literally had attorneys in a courtroom. The Comal County Bar Association had about 15 lawyers in the courtroom one time, and I was actually, teaching them the difference between hemp and marijuana, doing my Hemp 101 seminar. So that was pretty cool to be able to do that. But like, they were like, wow, we had no idea, about all this stuff. And it was kind of their origins, right? So for you, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get drawn into this crazy plant that we call hemp or cannabis?
So I'll tell my story really quickly, but I just want to point out that my docu-series, it's called Legalize It, Triumphant Hemp Lobbying. There are 12 short videos. The first video actually talks about like my whole history and how I got into hemp and why I find this plant so fascinating and how I started lobbying. And the remainder of the docu-series covers the 12 bills that I have passed or helped pass in the last 8 years for hemp. So it's a pretty comprehensive video and docu-series about all the positive work that we've done for the hemp industry from a lobbying perspective. But so I got into hemp because when I was a senior in college, I was actually given the book The Emperor Wears No Clothes, written by Jack Herer.
Yes, Jack Harrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually, oh, it's across the room. I was like, I have a copy of it I could show you quick.
Look,
But
don't get up. We don't get up on Zoom. We don't get up. We don't stand up.
yeah, no, it's okay. And I was reading this book and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. That this plant,
Yeah.
I grew up in the DARE program. This plant that I was told was so awful and evil and dangerous my whole life was something that could clean up toxins in soil and produce thousands of sustainable products and provide us medicine and provide us with healthy alternatives. And yet it was a Schedule I and illegal. And I couldn't believe it. And once I went to law school, I realized I couldn't stand for it. And I interned for National Normal, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. And once I became a licensed attorney, started practicing medical marijuana criminal defense, went back to school, earned a degree in environmental and natural resources law, a master of laws, and just started fighting. And I started fighting here in Oregon and started passing legislation here, started passing legislation throughout the country, and then worked with Senator McConnell and Senator Wyden in drafting the Hemp Farming Act of 2018, which is the language in the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp.
That is so awesome, and amazing, and you bring up another, awesome point. They say closed mouths don't get fed, right? And I think what's happening right now, or it's been happening all along, only a certain select few have been able to go and lobby at the big boy level, right? Or big boy, big girl too. Okay. I'm just saying, at that level to be able to get those voices heard. And I know you have some things that you want to do this upcoming legislative session, because you've had certain people support legislation or support you in your endeavors, because you have to travel to DC. to do this stuff. Hotels aren't free. Rental cars aren't free. Food's not free, right? So
Flights aren't
what are you
free.
looking to do? No, planes are not free. No. Hey, you can, I mean, you can try to flap your arms until you take off, but I don't think it's gonna work. Um,
Haven't seen it yet,
so
but
yeah, I haven't either. So what does Courtney need from the community to be able to go and continue to do what you're doing, at the DC level?
we need people to support lobbying efforts. We need the industry to come together and to realize the value that lobbying has to their bottom line and to the future of their businesses. I know that this industry has pivoted throughout the last 10 years, and especially in this last year and a half, 2 years, things have been through a lot, we've been through a lot of different ups and downs, a lot of challenges. And, from my perspective, the people that are in this industry are survivors. The ones of us that have made it through all these challenges, we are survivors, but we can't just continue to survive, right? We have to turn the ship around and start thriving. And I think that's what a lot of us have advocated for. It's been the dream, it's been the narrative that's been going forward. But until we are supporting one another and supporting policy work, that we're going to keep being stuck into the situation that we're currently in right now.
Right. And if I remember correctly, the guys at IND Hemp, Ken Elliott and his team have been, great supporters, of you. But I mean, they can't do it all alone in themselves all the time, you know. So those of you that are looking to do something, more sustenance, and you've got a little bit of wallet, hey, definitely, reach out to Courtney and figure out, what you can do to get involved, to get behind her, and what she's wanting, to do, for you guys. And I am so glad that, I got a couple of questions, then we're going to open it up for general Q&A, for everyone. But I am so glad you started off with your background and how you were talking about hemp can be used to clean up, the soil, and just different things like that. Because there is somebody that I reached out to who shall remain nameless. But he's pretty, prominent individual in a certain state. And I'm like, and after you and I talked on the phone, I called him up. I'm like, hey man, I know you guys are doing some stuff in your state and you want to be able to do some more substantial stuff. I got, Courtney Moran coming out. You may want to come out, and listen. He's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if she's one of those lawyers that's, for cannabinoids or whatever. I'm like, bro, no, dude. Like she is about industrial hemp. She wants to see industrial hemp, happen. Uh, so, with that being said, do you foresee when because so first of all, let's just put it out there, all right? And I have no problem saying certain things because I'm not worried about getting fired, right? But hemp was never meant to get people high. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right.
It was never meant to get people high, right? So they wrote some, some language was written, and as this language is being written by attorneys, I am pretty sure the cynics and the chemists are like, shh, nope, don't say nothing. Let them go ahead. Let them write it. Let them write it, right? So this language goes through, and then they find this loophole to be able to take legal hemp, do some things from a chemical standpoint, reverse engineer it, and get to things like Delta 8, which gets people intoxicated. And I know with what's upcoming, anything that gets someone high or gets someone intoxicated, you're not going to be able to call that hemp. Like, that's the goal. There's a place for it. There's a place for it somewhere in the world, right? But they're just not going to call it hemp. So, with that being said, do you foresee them keeping delineations between hemp and marijuana, or them doing hemp, marijuana, and other cannabinoids?
I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell you the answer. I think what is very clear is that we will see a delineation between true industrial grain, fiber, and stock and cannabinoid hemp, whether that's intoxicating or not. And whether we see further delineation between marijuana, intoxicating hemp, and minor cannabinoid hemp, or if we see a merge of marijuana with the intoxicating hemp, I think is yet to be seen. Depends on, the lobbying power, but also if we watch what's happening state by state,
Uh-huh.
the move by law enforcement, the move by regulators is to merge all the intoxicants into one program. It's this one plant, one system narrative that we continue to hear, especially coming from the cannabis lobby, which of course is impacting the minor cannabinoids and is impacting the industrial sector. And
Right.
I do talk about the intent of the 2018 Farm Bill in our 2018 Farm Bill video in the
Mm-hmm.
docuseries,
Mm-hmm.
but the intent was to protect cannabinoids. We saw what happened between 2014 to 2018. There was a big lawsuit, the HIV DEA case in the Ninth Circuit, and there was a lot of support from Congress to protect cannabinoid production. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there was very clear intent to protect cannabinoid production. We were very intentional actually with that definition of hemp and removing the word industrial, using the term hemp only, bringing in terms from the DEA's own definition of marijuana to clarify that we did want to protect cannabinoids. But what has happened beyond that in the marketplace and in the manufacturing facilities was not the original intent. I think there's legal arguments to be made about legality and things like that as things have turned out. But what will we see? I don't know. The drafts that came out of the Farm Bill from both the House and the Senate are trying to change that, trying very much so to limit the scope of intoxicating products in the marketplace. But what language comes forward in the 119th Congress, we don't know. It's a clean slate, quite frankly. Whether these bills get reintroduced, we'll see. But our new Congress was just sworn in on Friday. So from my perspective, we are at the starting line, and I personally believe that we have incredible opportunity with this new Congress. We have incredible opportunity with this new administration. And if the right players come together and they support the right advocacy, honest advocacy, folks acting with integrity, we can have a solid platform and actually make a difference.
I agree. I agree with that, wholeheartedly. And I can't help but to think back to my time, in the Air Force and being, let me meet somebody here. My time in the Air Force and being air crew, right? The last part of my career, I was a flight engineer on C-130 aircraft. And one thing about air crew members, I'm pretty sure you saw, Top Gun Maverick, the original one, when he wanted permission to buzz the tower and they wouldn't let him, like, negative, Ghost Rider, the pattern is full, right? And he did it anyway just to be cynical, and the old boy spilled coffee all over himself, right, in the tower, And the thing about air crew members, we can be very cynical at times. It's like you tell us not to do it, we're like, challenge accepted, right? We're gonna find another way. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of the chemists and the cannabinoid players. It's like, okay, well, you're giving us a rule, we're gonna follow your rule to the letter, but we know that we can do XYZ. And I think one of the things that's happening is they continue to do. I'm seeing it. It's like every time some legislation comes out, they find a way to skirt it, with chemistry, right? And I think what they're trying to do is say that there is so much diversity with this plant. Stop playing with it. Just go ahead and legalize it. I know that's what everybody wants in the end, but it's like there's a game that's being played right now to get them to, to get people to, bend in that direction. And I see it so plain because I'm just used to it. But I don't, some people get very frustrated. It's like I see what's going on.
No, 100%. I absolutely agree with that. I think also if one of the biggest problems that we have had failures of federal agencies to implement policy, to provide regulations and guidance. And if agencies had moved forward as requested by industry, as requested by Congress, we'd be in a different situation in the marketplace. But like you said, the reality is that the market has moved faster and advanced faster than the policy. The policy is constantly trying to catch up. So is it catching up in the right way or not? And, depending on where you're coming from, you're going to have a very different perspective if the policy has turned out correctly or not. But,
Right.
some people are out there just to make a dollar. Some people are out there to help other people. Some people are out there to help the planet. Some people are really about the plant. And so what people are doing to keep their doors open, to help their families, to save the farms, it's going to lead some people to these other avenues.
Right, right. And that brings up another, key point with entrepreneurship. I know, everybody who's on this call in one way or another is an entrepreneur of sorts, right? Whether they're still working their 9 to 5 and they work their entrepreneurship after they get off, or they're like, screw it, I'm tired of working this 9 to 5. I'm gonna go cash in my 401k. I'm gonna open a CBD location. This is gonna be great. Or I'm gonna cash it in. I'm gonna open a farm. And then the thing about it is, it doesn't pop off they planned on. They start running out of money. People get desperate, So I always tell people, do not quit your main hustle. Always, continue to work that so that you have that steady stream of income as things continue to build. And you have, funds available to get behind causes like yours, right? To be able to go and do things, within legislation. So if you were queen for a day, and you could wave your magic wand, over people that are listening to this, and people are going to get this message on a recording. How could they best support you to be able to go and do that? Are you looking at like $100 a month, from people? A couple of like what does Courtney need to be able to go effectively convey the message? Because apparently you already have their respect, at the legislative level. You've already got the street cred, right? But what to need to spread.
You cut out for me for a second, James, so I'm sorry I didn't hear the end of that.
Oh, sorry.
But
I said
I want to,
you've already got the street cred.
what I want to say is that it's not my message, right? It's the industry, right? And so the people that I represent, I'm carrying their message forward. And
Right.
fortunately for me, over these years, I have had different opportunities to represent the collective industry, to represent the Oregon farmers as a collective and an organization, and also to represent individual businesses that believed in the collective, right? And so as individual businesses willing to provide the necessary funding to carry these efforts forward, knowing that I would only advocate for policy that was going to benefit the collective, not one company over another. And that's been very important to my heart and to knowing what the bigger mission is, right? The bigger mission is about creating the opportunity for folks to utilize this plant to its fullest capabilities. And we have not seen that yet, not even close. And so I just want to say that it's not my message, right? It's the message of the plant, it's the message of the industry, and it's the message of the business owners and what they want to see, what all of you want to see, what framework do you want to be operating in? Because over the last, almost 100 years, right, we've seen prohibition, we have seen very stringent regulations. We see during wartime our government clinging to this plant to provide us with incredible resources, going back to prohibition, and a battle, an education battle, a truth battle, right, about the reality of what this plant can do. And so now we're in a time where we have it is a legal commodity, right? But how do we want this to be regulated? Who do we want our regulators to be? What is that framework? And so what I hope to see is that the folks that are operating with integrity come together, because I know that not every company has the ability to hire a full-time lobbyist, right? And what I'm seeing
Right.
more of is that if we can get the right farmers, the right manufacturers together, we get a coalition to come and collectively advocate where, you know, either I or someone else can be their voice on the ground who has the connections and, you know, the reputation with Congress to be honest in their dealings and to carry that message forward to have an impact. And so, for example, you know, we worked on the Industrial Hemp Farming Act for almost 3 years. And that language, we were able to secure Senate co-sponsors that were bipartisan. We secured a bipartisan companion bill in the House. Both were introduced. That language was put in both the House Farm Bill and the Senate Farm Bill language. Now, neither of those passed, but it was because we had the right support, the right financial backing, and the right players able to convey a very clear and honest message about what the opportunities were. And we faced numerous struggles, and we had to negotiate with law enforcement. We had to negotiate with regulators. We had to negotiate with attorneys general. I mean, we had to negotiate with senators, representatives, you know, their staff, with different affiliations and organizations. But we got to that point, right? And if one of those farm bills had passed, that language would have been into law, and we would have this clear new definition for industrial hemp. We don't have that, but that's the kind of thing that we can do, right? I mean, I have passed 12 hemp-related bills already to date, right? And if we can get the right people together again, I think we can have a solid and very strong impact in this next federal policy. There's been a lot of misinformation going around. There are, you know, organizations lobbying against each other. Unfortunately, Congress has been very confused. The attorneys for both House and Senate Ag Committee have told me that the cannabinoid issue has taken more time in the Farm Bill than any other issue.
Wow.
Right? So it's we have the attention, right? But is the right message getting conveyed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that, and then we'll open it up for Q&A here in just a second. But I just, you know, this is just something that's near and dear to me because, once again, there's another organization like you talked about that are, they're putting out, the message that's convenient for them. There was an organization that was putting out the message of, oh, hemp is dead, hemp is dying, they're killing the industry, right? And it's bullshit, right? The industry is not dying. That was so not, and it pissed me off so bad when I spoke with one of my mentors about this to kind of get some insight. Basically, it was the Delta 8 people, right? Those people that were making a killing, on Delta 8, right? And anybody who's doing D8, I always tell them, hey, if you're making a lot of money, good for you, man. Put it in savings because you're gonna need it for a lawyer, one day when things hit the fan, but it's like just because they were finally about to kick D into the nest and go back to what hemp was, oh, they're killing the industry. No, dude, that stuff was never meant to be there. And now, you can only dance with the devil so many times before he steps on your toes, right? You're getting your toes stepped on. I get it. It doesn't feel good. I understand it doesn't feel good that your toes are being stepped on, but you were never supposed to be out here doing this dance anyway, And then, once I finally understood that for myself, I got pissed, right? I got mad because it's like here I am, ready to put a signal out to the masses and just be like, we all need to fight everything that they're doing. No, it's just it needs to be what it's supposed to be, you know. So like I said, I applaud you, on your efforts, and you won't say it, but I will say it. Guys, here's the deal. People need to come together from a monetary standpoint to be able to send this young lady back to DC to be able to help us out in this space. So if you're one of those people who's, sitting on a wallet, please make sure you get in touch with her through her organizations. Courtney, please be sure to put that up so people can see how to get in touch with you again with the QR code, because that's what needs to happen, guys. And, I open this thing Q&A because I know, there are some people who have issues. They have things that they're worried about. They have concerns. And I want you to be able to hear, these people's concerns. So with that said, if anyone mute, ask those questions because this is your time, guys. So who's going first? Who's up? Oh, I see
Hi,
some activity
Iola.
going on. Who's up? Hey,
Hi,
hey,
Ola.
what's going on, Miss Iola?
Hi. I'm
Hello, how are
just
you?
listening. I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, good.
Good, good. I'm listening to Courtney. Yes, okay. And I guess I'm not a little frustrated. I'm a lot of frustrated because I tell you, I listen to what she's saying and I get it, but then I don't because I was all, when I was in school, and I'm probably older than all y'all in here in the room. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. They always told us that when you're doing something, you should follow the rule of KISS, and that's keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think that the problem that I see, one of the many problems that I see, is the fact that we're trying to make it so much different than alcohol. And the truth is that it is not. All of it is intoxicating. You know what I mean? And hemp is and the type that get the what do you call it? I guess the cannabis is probably less damaging to the body than alcohol. So I'm wondering if it's deeper than just them not wanting to work with us. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms people that are in the way, and we just don't have the money to compete with them because they were able to do what they needed to do. I don't know how many years ago, probably before I was born. And we just don't have the funds to fight them in the same fashion that they were able to fight. But we're not going through the street shooting up people either, and I know that's what they did. But anyway, so I guess I say all that to say is, how can I help? Right now, I don't have the finances. I'm just gonna be honest with you, because I'm still trying to survive the hemp that I got sitting in my Jesus, I got sitting in my corn crib and my barns drying out to be able to try to, because I'm in the I want to be in the industrial side of it because I want to do hempcrete and some other things that I've fascinated in my mind. And I just think that I need help me understand, how can I help you? If it's not, I will take a ride with you. You know what I mean? I'll hawk some stuff and get on my soapbox. You know what I mean? I'm serious because I think it's deeper than just the fact that it's intoxicating. I think they're afraid that if they let us in that door, that their asses are going to be in hot water and we're going to take a lot of their money. I think at the end of the day, that's really what it's really
People
all.
aren't making money in cannabis.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Oh, I think somebody was unmuted that didn't plan on unmuting. That's funny.
But it's okay. You know what the truth
Yeah.
is? We're not making money in cannabis because they won't let us in to do it. That's the only reason why we're not doing it. That is the only reason why, is because they won't let us in. And they won't let us in because they're afraid we're going to take their revenue, and they ought to be, because if I get an opportunity, I'm damn sure going for their dollars. I'm sorry. But anyway, I digress. And so I asked again, let me know how I can help, and I will reach out to you, Courtney. I got your information, and see how I can help. If I have to ride in the car with you or drive across country to be at that Washington meeting, whatever, to talk and let them know, come on, they need to open up the door, because it is no worse than alcohol, none, and it's way better because the usage of it is far exceeds anything that they use to make all that stuff they use for alcohol to create it is far more progressive and more useful to our planet than anything.
Let's give Courtney a chance to respond. So
All right, I'm sorry. Duh.
No, neither of you apologize. Emily, I'm glad that you are off mute and said that, because that is 100% the reality. People are not making money in cannabis. I know people closing their doors every day on like the adult use cannabis side. How many people have lost their farms? Same as on the hemp side. And from the experience that I've had, it's overregulation on the adult use side. And the cannabis regulators are not putting in policies to help the industry or to provide them with economic development and treat them as businesses. They are treating all of those entities as criminals. And a lot of these agencies are law enforcement agencies, and they are over-regulating. And so why is it not simple? It's because the regulations are being put forward through fear, right? Prohibition was all about fear. Everything that we were taught about cannabis was about fear, to make us afraid of this plant And enough of us have woke up and seen, hey, this plant's actually amazing. It can help us. It can heal us. It can heal this planet. And we're a lot smarter now, and we're stronger, and we know that we can stand up and say something and do something. And that's also why we see how many states have legalized cannabis against federal law. We have legalized hemp federally, but why are people pushing the bounds? Because it isn't that scary, right? When I was in law school and talking about this, people couldn't believe I was even bringing this up. I had a mentor, and I told her what I wanted to do when I was back in law school, and she was like, no pun intended, but won't that weed out your potential employers? And I said to her, if I can't even have the conversation, I don't want to work with these people. Those are not the kind of people that I want to work with. And even going to Congress, there were offices I would walk into and I'd say the word hemp, and they couldn't believe I had the audacity to even say the word in their office. So then I knew, okay, one particular office, I went back every single day that week until they sat down with me. I'm like, if you're afraid of a word, then we have something even more, that we need to talk about. Emily, I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, Emily, please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm over here like getting myself together for the week and stuff. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to be rude to interrupt, but it's the truth. I was in Texas. I'm the founder of the Cannabis Law Student Association at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. And I usually don't hop on these, but I saw it and I had time. But I actually relocated.
Thank you for coming out here, Emily. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. That's awesome. Thank you.
No problem. But I actually I was in Texas, and I was trying to just try to understand the cannabis hemp market in Texas, and because of the regulations and me trying to get my license, I didn't feel comfortable remaining in that jurisdiction. So now I'm in Oregon, and here, that's why I said that. I learned in Oregon that they're not making money anymore. And it's like every single state that becomes legalized, there's like this huge wave of, oh my God, we're making so much money and look at all this tax revenue. And then after that, the market gets saturated, and then it plummets. It plummets each and every single time. And I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact with the state's legal framework. Like Louisiana, they only allow, I think, 2 universities to grow their medical marijuana, and it's been good for them. But here, because in Oregon, in I think it was 2014, they legalized, they went rec, and they let everybody in. So because they let everybody in, and that wasn't what was being proposed prior to the passage of legalization, it created a saturated market, and now you can literally get an ounce of cannabis for like $20 out here. It's that it to me, I feel like statutorily speaking, it's all about the state being a market participant, in order for them to be able to control the market some way or another, to guarantee that there is going to be some type of steady revenue. And when states don't do that, or when legislation or politicians don't understand that, legally speaking and constitutionally speaking, they don't understand the dormant commerce clause exception. It's just like, what are you doing? And that's what's happened in Oregon. So a lot of people, like even my boss at my job now, I work for a commercial law firm, and he was in the business, and he got out because he saw what was happening, and he was fortunate. But a lot of people, they were making money, and now they're not anymore. So that's just something I wanted to add to the conversation.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, Emily. I'm in Oregon also. I'd love to touch base with you offline. Maybe we could connect here. And yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, people are losing their finances, they're losing their dreams, right? They're having to pivot. I mean, even myself, I mean, I'm starting to look at other areas of law because the ability to practice solely in hemp is no longer there. I mean, it was there for me for 10 years, fortunately, but it's not there anymore. And it is because of these issues with the policies and what has been regulated and what hasn't. And even some of the policies that are put there, are they being enforced? Are the right things being enforced? Are the bad actors actually getting targeted, or is it good actors who they're just trying to make an example of, who aren't actually doing anything wrong? And we know the bad actors are just doing their business all day long, despite it. And so that's part of the problem. And so I want folks to understand that if we want this industry to be the industry that I think a lot of us set out to make this, that we can't give up, and we do have to realize that we do still have an opportunity and we do still have a voice. And if we stop speaking, if we stop engaging, that's when the regulators can completely take it over. That's when law enforcement can completely take it over. And that's when, you know, the bigger MSOs, hate to say it, but they're going to get what they want and they're going to shut the smaller people out. Right. And so if we want this to be a plant that's supporting community and supporting the collective, we have to be a community. We have to be a collective. And I would love to be that voice for the collective and continue to help people. And I understand not everyone has the finances to do this, you know, and that's why I don't expect just one company to come and somehow save the day, right? Like a couple of years ago, that was reality. It's not reality anymore. And so if you don't have the finances to hire a lobbyist, then continuing to get the word out, you know, sharing our message, sharing the information, being willing to write to your regulators, willing to write to your members of Congress, willing to write to your own state legislators, showing up at hearings, participating, the amount of energy and effort I put into informing folks, like especially in Oregon, hey, we have a hearing coming up, here's your opportunity, and no one shows up. And they wonder why policies are what they are. And so I'm just trying to remind people, you do have a voice, you do have an impact. I mean, look what we have done in the last 10 years. I mean, we legalized hemp, right? And, you know, theoretically, like majority of cannabis is legal right now, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. And that's amazing, right? And so we have to acknowledge our victories, celebrate the victories, acknowledge the struggles, but not just give up because of it. See, okay, how can we work with this? How can we pivot? How can we educate people for the right outcome, not just an outcome that's going to benefit one or two companies, but benefit the collective?
Absolutely. And I think we're going to have some more questions, you know,
Great.
in a second, but I wanted to throw something in there as a quick segue, and we'll continue on with the questions. I have seen a pattern, and I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to tell you the cheat code that we've been doing, you know, to kind of, you know, get around this pattern. I'm seeing companies open up, start out initially well, and then they shut their doors because they can't sustain, you know, what they're doing. They're not making the money. And then you have people that come in and buy those companies. They're buying these grows. They're buying them on the low, right? And they're buying them and they're sitting on them. Guys, that's some big pharma stuff, right? You know, it's like they're buying you out because you scaled up too fast and it couldn't be sustained. And they're gonna buy it and they're gonna sit on it. And then when they have enough and enough people have quit, boom, they're gonna fire it up, and they've already acquired things, right? So like with my brand, all of my products are THC free products with extra CBG, because CBG has the ability to target some of the same receptors in the body as THC, but without the intoxicating effects whatsoever. So I'm looking at all this legislation roll out, and I'm kind of sitting back like, whew, man, we dodged that bullet. We're good, you know, with our product line. But that's that's the road that we've decided to go personally. Some aren't doing that. Some don't want to do that. Some are not interested. Hey, I get it. I understand. But that's just, what we've done. And I wanted to give Evan a chance. I think Evan started speaking and then he muted back, but then he turned his camera on. So I think Evan has something fire that he wants to bring across. Evan, how are you this evening,
Hey,
sir?
good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really enjoyed the discussion this evening. I'm on the East Coast, North Carolina, Mid-Atlantic. Feel like I'm in a totally different world than y'all are.
Okay.
But as Miss Colleen said, she was talking about the delineation between the industrial hemp and what is weed, is marijuanas, and the separation between. And she spoke on the one plant, one rule. What are we moving towards? Like, I think everybody would agree that we want it all one plant, one world. But as we're progressing, I know they're not going to let that happen. So on an industrial level, like me, what I'm trying to do as that entrepreneur over here on the East Coast is I know that delineation will always be there. I just got certified for doing the compliance sampling. And so I want to make sure that, yeah, they're going to keep that, because in North Carolina, we're going under that, the farm bill, the 18 farm bill. But whereas Tennessee, South Carolina, they're all doing theirs in-house. I'm talking with Virginia, they're doing it third party, but under the state. So like, as it's progressing in that separation, how can we, or me, like right in that middle, help support, and what am I supporting, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I understand where you're coming from. So I want to clarify. So one part of what I was talking about is creating like right now, as we sit here today, hemp is anything less than 0.3% delta 9/total THC, depending on how you look at it, right?
Right.
So that's the overarching definition. Because of what's happened in the marketplace and the struggles that we've seen for true industrial grain, fiber, and stock farmers and manufacturers, that the Industrial Hemp Act was to create a delineation between hemp cannabinoids, whether intoxicating or not, or hemp for any purpose, versus true industrial grain, fiber, stock. And that's what I mean by creating a delineation. So hemp for any purpose, and then industrial hemp. That's one piece of it. The one plant, one system narrative and slogan is something that's come out of the cannabis industry, and it's their goal, or certain people's goal, to get all hemp cannabinoids, and especially the intoxicating hemp cannabinoids, to be treated like marijuana, to be regulated under the marijuana programs, because it's one plant, it should be one system. It has nothing to do with industrial. I haven't heard, honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've heard anyone, whether it's a regulator, maybe law enforcement and certain regulators, but I really haven't heard the cannabis industry or the majority of regulators, or really law enforcement, say that they think industrial needs to be tied in with marijuana regulations.
Right.
That's not the concern. There's been like very minor concerns about THC levels, but that's a little bit separate and too nuanced for today's conversation. Right. So it's more about and it's not my goal, right? It's certain people's goal that they want this one plant, one system to have all cannabinoid regulation under the marijuana programs. So could that benefit some of the marijuana licensees? Sure. Could it hurt several of the hemp licensees? Absolutely. And so is that going to move forward or not? Yet to be seen. Some states are really pushing for it. Some states kind of already done it. Congress, theoretically, if we look at the Miller Amendment, if we look at even some of the language put in the Senate Farm Bill, it would go to that, whether people want that or not. And so do we want to see, and I think it's going to be different for every business, right? Do you want to see all cannabinoids, whether they're intoxicating or not, whether they're coming from a low THC or high THC plant, all regulated the same? Do we want only intoxicating cannabinoids regulated a certain way? Do we want minor cannabinoids regulated a different way? These are the questions being posed to Congress, being posed to state regulators and state legislatures. And I don't think there's a specific answer yet. I would say Senator Wyden's bill, the Cannabinoid Safety and Regulation Act, that could provide some sort of framework, but the reality of that bill is that it leaves a lot up to FDA. It allows FDA to create standards. So the public narratives around that bill also, it's not like it's a cut and dry, everything's already solved in the bill. It leaves a lot up to rulemaking, which when I work with, especially in different states, if it's an agency we can trust, we want to give them rulemaking, right? You don't want to go back to the legislature. You want to work with your agency.
Right.
If it's an agency you can't trust, which I think pretty unanimously we can say we can't really trust the FDA, given what they have and have not done over the last several years, especially in regards to the programs that have been asked to be regulated. You want to just give them kind of like an open door to do what they want. I mean, maybe, but maybe not.
Right. So I think it would behoove us to get, I guess, behind one horse or the other in this race to get it more not regulated. Because in North Carolina, I'm recently hearing more and more farmers getting raided and everything seized by DEA and stuff because of that lack of like positive no and who's doing what. And that's why I felt like I should do the compliance testing and help people know so they're not getting run up on, for lack of better terms. But how can we move forward if we're all saying something different? If like the cannabinoid people are trying to get around it through, like Mr. JJ said, through the chemistry side of things, and we got the high THC people doing that cool on the West Coast, but that's never going to come to North Carolina, Virginia, the East Coast like that with full, recreational and everything. So how can I better help? I guess, how can I better help?
Yeah, no, excellent. So I do just want to say THC is not bad, right?
Right.
I mean, I support cannabis as a whole. I always have. Like, hemp is my passion, but THC is not bad. The issue is that there has been lack of regulation and lack of certain enforcement, certain voices advocating for people to go out and, quite frankly, break the law to push the bounds, and some people want to advocate that way. Some people think we should kind of like follow our program and show that we can follow a program to advance our programs. And so different things are happening across the country. North Carolina has been a very interesting place because North Carolina has not had end product regulation. And now there's been different enforcement. And so are folks looking at the Delta 9 levels? Are they looking at total THC levels? Once they start looking at total THC, things are very different. Law enforcement has new authority to go and actually enforce this and start charging folks. And that's what's happening in North Carolina. Right now, law enforcement is realizing the authority that they actually have, and they're going and enforcing it because things have been getting out of control, really. So yes, there is absolutely a lot of different narratives out there. And who does Congress listen to? Well, they're going to listen to the people that are honest. They're going to listen to the people that have a very clear narrative. They're going to listen to the people that actually have a solution for them. And, some of them might just listen to whoever's going to pay them the top dollar, right? Everyone's motivated differently. But in the experience that I've had and the successes that I've had, we come in with a solution. We come in with common sense policy. We come in with language that has been vetted, that we've worked very hard with a lot of different folks to come to an agreement with. And we bring in the right people so they can hear the stories on the ground of, here's what's happening. Here's how my business is impacted. Here's how you can help.
So,
and so
I'm gonna.
Well, I was just saying, lastly, I mean, Evan, you going and getting your ability to do the certifications and do the testing, that's awesome, because you're going to be on the ground and you're going to be able to help, and you're going to be able to see, this is what's working, this is what isn't, here's what's causing the struggles for these particular farmers and business owners, and you're going to know firsthand, and you're going to be able to convey that. And that's fantastic that you've taken that step forward.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Evan. And I also wanted to listening to you guys go back and forth, it just dawned on me, Courtney, I have the solution. My Hemp 101 seminar is the solution. And I'm joking but serious at the same time, because I don't think that, like, the people who've been doing this for a long time, they don't need something like a Hemp 101, right? But those people that are new to this space, they need to understand the basics on self. They need to understand the basics of legislation. They need to understand the cannabinoid side of the plant. They need to understand the industrial side of the plant. They need to understand COAs. They need to understand drug testing, right? And I've put all of that and condensed it into one seminar. It's long, yes, because it's a lot of freaking information to cover. Don't judge me. And I put the video on YouTube, right? So people can go and look it up and have access to that. But it just dawned on me while you guys were talking, there was a specific shift that I've noticed in our space. So the 2018 Farm Bill came out, right? And everybody was kind of trucking along. But then the USDA came out with their policies, and they dropped a giant damn stink bomb with two concepts that people were like, what the hell is this? First of all, post-decarboxylation. That was in the USDA stuff. It wasn't in the Farm Bill stuff. And then they came out with total THC versus Delta 9. That was in the USDA stuff. That wasn't on the federal level, right? And it dropped a giant stink bomb on the industry, and people were scrambling, trying to figure out and wrap their brains around this stuff simultaneously while trying to understand the 2018 Farm Bill. So I purposely put a segment in my seminar where I talk about the federal stuff and then I talk about the USDA stuff separately to make sure people know where it's coming from. Because when the USDA stuff came out, that's when the states started getting more power because they could go more strict instead of less strict than the federal guidance,
Right.
So that
Kind of did. They just stuck with the federal, and that's where it confused me a little bit too, because yeah, we got one thing saying one thing, another breaking it down a little bit more, wanting more stringent separation. So cool. Yeah, I will definitely have to
yeah,
be checking.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then and yeah, bro. Like, by the way, Evan, my email, it's James, JAMES at JJGRO.com. Once again, JAMES at JJGRO.com. Anybody who wants to hit me up on email, want the link to that Hemp 101, I will gladly, hook you guys up with that. But like, I sincerely feel like that put a lot of lawyers to work at that point in time because people were trying to understand certain things. And I'll give you an
Mhm.
example. Emily was talking about she came from Texas. Emily, I'm with you, girl, because I just left Texas. Texas is doing some stuff, right? And when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, man, because when the plant was growing out of the ground, right, it fell under the Department of Agriculture's guidance, which was 0.3% total. They went with total THC if the plant was growing out of the ground. But the minute you cut it and it was no longer growing, now it falls under DISH's, Department of Safety and Health Services. And DISH's rule was Delta 9 THC. So while you're growing it, you're going under total. They got that from the USDA, right? Once you cut it, then they switch back over to federal and go with the finalized products, Delta 9. Delta 9 THC is Delta 9. It's not THCA. It's not Delta 8. It's not in, so we're going to go crazy, guys, because it's not Delta 9 for finalized products. And man, it did a number on things. So, Emily, what do you got, girl?
I just wanted to reflect on why I left Texas. Like you definitely hit it on the head, but you definitely hit it on the head. But I was a compliance and operations director for one of the smaller cannabis like Delta 9 THC, and I just did not feel comfortable staying there because of how they were advertising their product, how there was a lack of labeling.
Yep.
There wasn't proper shelf life on their product, and every single time I would try to make recommendations, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like you're literally this is a public health issue, and I don't think the state of Texas was really understanding that at that time. But and I come from Jersey, and
Yeah.
Jersey don't play that, okay? Jersey is like they're like, nah, that's not. It's just different in
They,
terms of regulations, in terms of how they approach things, in terms of the efficacy and efficiency of their SOPs. Is like it's literally night and day. And Texas is literally the wild wild west.
it
And
was. I was
I,
out in West Texas for about 10 years chasing oil rigs, and
yeah.
it was. And you'd have one shop with everything labeled correct
Mm-hmm.
of some sort under some kind of plan, and then other
Mm-hmm.
just whatever, whatever.
Yep.
It was,
Oh,
yeah.
trust me, so
I
y'all may not, but I'm not sure if y'all remember Veteran Scientific Laboratories. That was my lab. Like I had a testing laboratory in San Antonio, registered with the DEA and everything, right?
Mm.
So people
cool.
would drop stuff off to us, and they would be growing. They didn't even know what they were what they were testing for. They were just dropping stuff off, looking for understanding of, hey, am I legal or am I not legal? And
Yeah,
that's
because
why
Mm-hmm.
what Courtney's doing with her efforts is, with what she's about to do, she needs as much support, as possible to continue these efforts because I feel like, we have the right attorney trying to represent the people, what the people want and what the people need.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to have her back too. She's got to be able to get on an airplane. She's got to be able to stay somewhere, while she's doing this stuff, So yeah, we got to be able to, provide that proper support.
Yeah, but like all of that, I completely understand. And the my experience in Texas is exactly why I left, but it's also representative of why it's important for there to be some kind of uniformity because
Yeah.
That's the bad actors. Like, they literally took advantage of the loophole that was within the 2018 Farm Bill, and they just wreaked havoc on it. And it's just like, this isn't helping us maintain a proper industry for cannabis, whether you're a consumer or if you're just trying to understand what's going on. Like, everything is confusing from business owner down to consumer, and that's not good for the industry, and it's definitely not good for cannabis. So, like, when it comes to federal uniformity, I'm a big fan of it, and a lot of people don't like the idea of things going federal because of all the crap that they have to deal with on the state level regulation wise. And from a business standpoint, I get that. But at the same time, if we're going to be successful with this market, we need to be able to get out there and explain this to the people that are making the rules and signing the dotted line.
100%, Emily.
Well, Emily,
Absolutely.
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you personally, young lady. Please take down my email address. Send me an email. Once again, james@jjgro.com. I want to send you my Hemp 101 seminar if you haven't already seen it. I want you to look at that thing start to finish and tell me if I'm spot on with because what you're talking about, that confusion, that is because of a lack of education, and who needs to provide that education? Don't know. I may not be the one, but like, we have to have the uniformity and the right message in order to help straighten things out for the masses. And that's where Courtney is key, is trying to get that right message across, and then it'll trickle down and eventually be, straightened out and sorted out the way it needs to.
We're all the ones, James, right? Because every conversation that we have, educating even one person, right? Then that means one more person is aware of what's going on and what the truth is. So it's all of our jobs, right? But it's our jobs in whatever our communities are, and whoever our connections and our contacts are. And so, like, my contacts just happen to be members of Congress and legislators, but it's also students. I mean, I teach hemp law and policy at Lewis and Clark Law School. And so I have law students who didn't know anything about hemp, and now they have a full basis in knowledge. And so whether they carry that forward with hemp, or they can carry forward the message knowing that if you really believe in something, you can have an impact, then they're going to go have an impact on whatever it is that they believe in. And I want to go back and touch on one thing that Evan brought up. One thing that I have advocated for, even before I started working on the 2018 Farm Bill, is 1%. I firmly believe that a 1% definition could help, especially at the farm level. If we had that across the board, it would create clarity about what's happening in the field, in the facility. And we need separate end product regulations. We need a solid framework there. But if we really want to protect our farmers and not let the bad policy that's been put forward for cannabinoids in both the Senate and House 2024 farm bills, then we need a collective to get together for 1%. So one of my goals, I would love if a collective of farmers from around the country and manufacturers got together, well, whether we had 10 to 20 who could throw in, maybe $1,000 a month for the year, then we would have like a solid amount of funding to go to Congress and to really advocate for that, because that would solve a lot of problems. And it's when we have the right people and the right players coming together and supporting that, that's going to be a pretty hard thing to advocate against. And so
Absolutely.
That's one thing that I personally would love to see. I do think that's something that can help the collective, but our firm, Agricultural Hemp Solutions, we are taking on new clients, whether it's for the 119th Congress, the Farm Bill, or in different states. And so I know several of you are located in different states right now, and we are being selective with who we're working with because we want to work with the right players who have the right heart in it and who want to see solid policy being put forward that can help the collective, help their own businesses, of course, but help the collective. And so kind of, to sum things up a little bit here, James, that I hope that the conversation today is bringing some awareness and is giving some answers, but also getting you all to start thinking, and hopefully in your conversations with other people to start helping people understand and acknowledge the importance of lobbying, the impact that they can have, and the value, and really return that businesses can get by having a trusted lobbyist on their team or being part of a collective that is supporting a lobbyist or an attorney who can advocate and carry these messages forward. And of course, I'd love that to be me, but if it's someone else that you trust, then that's fine. It's just we have to be honest in our dealings. We have to have integrity. And if we want to carry forward what I believe the message of the plant is, that's how we have to operate. And because that's not what's happening in the marketplace, I think that's why things are actually so challenging right now. And I pray that we get back to that. And I pray that we see the true value of this crop and commodity realized. We are a very long way off from that, but I still believe in this plant as much as I did the first day I ever learned about it.
Absolutely. And, you know, we're at an hour. We can continue on a little bit longer. I saw Evan turn his camera back on. Evan, did you have something to add?
No, I just wanted to say thank you at the end for sure for bringing us all together, helping us get on the same page, because I think that's where we need to be moving forward, like Colleen was saying. And I'd second her voice leading our charge.
Yes, absolutely. Courtney is awesome.
I'm sorry, Courtney. I'm so bad with names.
That's okay.
That's okay.
And so
all right, it's cool.
The QR codes are up here just as an easy way for you all to connect with me. Our emails are right there, the phone number. Please reach out if you want to work with us. I'd love to work with any of you. If you have other folks in the industry who you know could benefit from collaborating with us, please have them reach out or provide an introduction. We're at the start of a new year. We really do have a new opportunity, and it's not only a new year, it's a new Congress, it's a new administration. We still need a farm bill. And so just because language was put in the farm bills that were introduced last year doesn't necessarily mean it has to carry forward. And if there's issues happening in your own state, most legislative sessions are starting in the next few weeks. There are incredible opportunities before us right now if we seize them.
And Courtney, I wanted to throw one last thing out there before we disconnect. I'm going to kind of tie a bow around this thing with what initially brought me and you together in the very beginning. Because when we were sitting together and we were talking, and I was sharing, the USDA, when they quoted Dr. Small in their research, the source document was called A Practical and Natural Taxonomy for Cannabis. That was the source document. And in the source document, right, the USDA, they latched onto the 0.3. Everybody's latched onto it. But the second part of that, it says it's a number that was meant, it's an arbitrary number, number one. Number two, it was meant to be associated with the leaves in young, vigorous plants. Now, if that number was meant to be associated with the damn leaves, people like Evan, when they're testing, they're collecting buds from top, middle, bottom, homogenizing them in a mixture and testing it. It ain't the freaking leaves. So as you move forward, Courtney, can you please, some kind of way, readers or leaders, right, make people know what that number was really meant to be, so that 1% would be definitely beneficial, right? But what does the source document say?
I will also enlighten you that USDA has its own documents that acknowledge that 1% is actually the delineation. We have a lot of, science and chemistry to support that too. So, maybe the policy can catch up with the science, right? This is a consistent issue, but, maybe we'll get there. I pray.
Yeah. Well, Courtney, I wanted to thank you so much, for your time coming out here, remembering who I am. And, just doing this has been really, amazing to reconnect. I hope to see you at NOCO, coming up. And if there is any way, that I can contribute, my platform, when I see messages that you're putting out, yep, they're getting blasted in 27 states right away. And I'm gonna text you and be like, hey girl, I just put your video up, let's go, So thank you so much for your time, energy, and effort to this plant. Guys, thank you so much for your trust in me and letting me put this together for y'all. I wish all of you prosperity. Emily, raise her hand real quick. What do you got, Emily, before we get out of here?
Just one more again, because I'm on my phone. What are both of you guys' emails? I know it's JJ, and that's all I got because I was in the kitchen.
Courtney, please,
so my email is Courtney at agriculturalhempsolutions.com. So
okay.
COURTNEY at AGRIC.
I got that. You don't do all that.
All right, Emily. All right, Emily. You ready for mine? You ready for mine? It's
Yeah.
James, James at jjgro.com. Boom. That's it. Mic drop.
I had ERO. I'm glad you spelled it. Thank you, Mr.
There's
JJ.
no W on the end. No W. No.
So James
GRO.
at jjgro.com.
Yes, ma'am. That is me.
Okay. I'll email you guys both after this call. I have a Gmail, so
Okay.
Perfect. Well, look,
Perfect,
I'll look out
perfect.
for your email, Emily. I'm looking forward to talking with you after.
same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Happy New Year to everyone. It's a new year, new beginnings. Let's get this thing kicked off right and make some stuff happen. So I'll see y'all somewhere out here in this crazy space.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you all for attending, and I look forward to connecting and hopefully working with some of you.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.